They say space is silent. A perfect, unending void. They're wrong. Space is full of ghosts. Echoes of voices you can't forget. For me, it's Lena's. Her last transmission, fractured by 1 billion kilometers of nothingness. Just static and 3 words that have haunted my every waking moment for the last 10 years. The flora, it sings. My name is Dr. Aris Thorne. I was once a leading xenobotanist, a pioneer on the edge of the known universe. Now I just tend to terrestrial orchids in a climate-controlled apartment that feels more like a cage. We were on Kepler 186f, the great red hope for humanity. A world bathed in the crimson light of a distant star. It was supposed to be our masterpiece, a new Earth. For Lena Petrova and me, it was the culmination of our life's work. Instead, it became her tomb. The official report was a catastrophic equipment malfunction during a solo survey. A lie, clean and simple, printed on glossy omnistellar letterhead. I knew it was a lie. But proving it against a megacorporation? That was a fight I couldn't win. My theories about the planet's uniquely interconnected ecosystem were dismissed as the ravings of a grief-stricken mind. So I vanished. I let the world forget me, just as I tried, and failed, to forget the look in Lena's eyes on that last day. A look of pure, unadulterated wonder, quickly consumed by terror. The past, however, has a nasty habit of refusing to be buried. It arrived on a Tuesday. A plain, anonymous courier drone dropped a small, lead-lined box at my door. No return address. No sender ID. My first instinct was to incinerate it. Years of looking over my shoulder had honed my paranoia to a razor's edge. But curiosity is a persistent parasite. Inside, nestled in shock-absorbent biofoam, was a single object that made my heart stop. A fossil. It was a seed, petrified and ancient, but its spiral shape was unmistakable. It was from Kepler 186f. A specimen from the Glimmerwood forest, named for the faint, bioluminescent pulse of its flora. My blood ran cold. No samples were ever officially recovered. The mission was a total loss, or so Omnistellar's polished press releases claimed. Every data log, every specimen container, supposedly vaporized in the accident. Yet here it was. A tangible piece of my past. A piece of the lie. Turning it over in my hand, I felt a faint, almost imperceptible vibration, a low hum that seemed to resonate deep in my bones. It was impossible. A fossil shouldn't do that. It was a dead thing. But as my thumb traced the intricate patterns on its surface, the hum grew stronger, a silent thrum of energy that prickled my skin. Lena's last words echoed in my mind. Not a memory this time, but a premonition. My lab was a ghost. Dust sheets covered spectrographs and gene sequencers I hadn't touched in a decade. It took me 2 days to power up the old systems, bypassing Omnistellar's remote kill switches and praying the capacitors would hold. I placed the fossilized seed in the resonance chamber of a bioacoustic analyzer. 4 hours, nothing. Just the low thrum of the machine. I was about to give up, to dismiss it all as a cruel prank or a symptom of my own fractured mind. Then, a single spike appeared on the monitor. Then another. And another. It wasn't random noise. It was a pattern. Complex, layered, almost musical. I ran it through a dozen decryption algorithms, but none of them could make sense of it. This wasn't code. It was a language. A language of pure frequency. I routed the output through a vocal synthesizer, hoping to hear something. The sound that filled my lab was haunting. A chorus of ethereal, overlapping tones that rose and fell in a mesmerizing cadence. It was beautiful, alien, and deeply unsettling. It was the song Lena had heard. She wasn't hallucinating. She had discovered the greatest secret in human history. Kepler 186f wasn't just a world with life, the world was life. A single, interconnected consciousness, communicating through a symphony of biological resonance. And that seed, it was a memory. A library. A voice. The discovery hit me with the force of a physical blow. Lena hadn't died because of an accident. She was silenced. She had uncovered a truth so profound, so paradigm-shifting, that a corporation worth trillions would kill to keep it secret. Why? Because you can't sell real estate on a planet that's already occupied. You can't strip mine a world that is a single, living being. Her death wasn't just a cover-up, it was a premeditated act to protect an investment. This fossilized seed wasn't a clue sent by a friend. It was a warning. Someone on the inside, someone with a conscience, was trying to tell me something. My paranoia returned, tenfold. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to lengthen. The hum of the city outside my window sounded like a threat. I was no longer just a grieving scientist. I was the sole heir to a secret that had already cost one person their life. I looked at the seed, pulsating with its silent song on my workbench. It held the truth. But the truth wouldn't be enough. To fight a giant like Omnistellar, I needed to know what they were planning now, and I needed help from someone who could walk through digital walls as if they weren't there. I needed a ghost of my own. There was only one name on that list, Kalen. A data nomad, a digital wraith I'd worked with once, years ago, on a less-than-legal data recovery project. Kalen existed only as a string of encrypted code and a reputation for being the best. Finding them was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. I sent a message through a dead drop server we had used back then, a single line of text, "The lark sings at midnight." It was our old code. A desperate call. For 3 days, silence. I thought the trail had gone cold, that Kalen was gone for good. Then, a message materialized on my screen, bypassing every firewall I had. "Larks are extinct, old man. This had better be good." Cautiously, I explained. The planet, Lena, the seed, the song. I expected to be dismissed as a crank. Instead, Kalen's response was immediate. "A sentient planet? And Omnistellar is in the middle of it? Aris, you don't just have a conspiracy on your hands. You've stumbled into the monster's den." There was no talk of payment. A puzzle of this magnitude was more alluring to a mind like Kalen's than any currency. "Give me 24 hours," the message read. "Let's see what this monster is hiding in its closet." Kalen's digital assault on Omnistellar was a work of art. I watched on a secured monitor as they described the corporation's network defenses. It wasn't just a firewall, it was a digital fortress, layered with AI sentinels, predictive algorithms, and black ice traps that could wipe an intruder's system in a nanosecond. "They're protecting something big," Kalen's text scrolled across my screen. "Military-grade stuff. This is beyond covering up a simple industrial accident." For hours, Kalen was a ghost in the machine, a whisper weaving through petabytes of data. They created phantom users, bounced signals off orbital relays, and exploited forgotten code from decades ago. It was a high-wire act with no safety net. At any moment, an alarm could trip, and we'd be finished. Omnistellar's legal and security teams would descend on me before I could even delete my browser history. Then, after 16 straight hours of digital warfare, a new window opened on my screen. It was a single folder, its name simple and chilling: Project Chimera, Kepler 186f. Kalen's message appeared below it. "We're in. Hold on to your hat, Aris. The monster is about to show us its face." My hands trembled as I clicked it open. The folder was a labyrinth of redacted files. But Kalen had the key. With a few keystrokes, the black bars hiding the text dissolved, revealing the unvarnished truth. We found the original, unedited mission logs. My logs. Lena's logs. And beside them, internal corporate memos. Omnistellar had known. Long before we ever set foot on that world, their deep-range probes had picked up the planet's resonant frequencies. They knew it was alive. They sent us, not as explorers, but as unwitting surveyors to assess the bioacoustic phenomenon. We were meant to confirm its nature so they could figure out how to neutralize it. Then we found Lena's final reports. They were filled with breathtaking wonder as she documented her discovery. She wasn't just taking readings, she was communicating. She believed she was making first contact. Her last entry, filed just hours before her accident, was a passionate plea to Omnistellar to halt all terraforming plans, to classify Kepler 186f as a sentient being and protect it. She had included a preliminary translation of the song. It was a message of peace, of welcome. A message the board of directors had stamped with a single, blood-red word: unacceptable. The final pieces of the puzzle were in a subfolder labeled Phase 2. The images and technical readouts made me feel physically ill. This was never about terraforming. It was about extermination. Omnistellar had developed a tailored retrovirus, an airborne agent designed to do one thing: attack the unique cellular structures that allowed the planet's flora to generate their resonant frequencies. It wouldn't kill the planet in a traditional sense. It would just silence it. Lobotomize it. Turn a living, thinking world into a mute, helpless resource ripe for exploitation. And they were ready to deploy it. Kalen pulled up a launch schedule. A new fleet, a massive corporate armada, was in the final stages of preparation at the Armstrong station. Its official designation was the Genesis Fleet. But its internal project name was the Quietus Fleet. Its launch window was in less than 72 hours. We hadn't just uncovered a murder, we had stumbled upon a premeditated, planetary-scale deicide. The seed in my lab wasn't just a warning about the past. It was a desperate, final cry for help about the future. Panic set in, cold and sharp. 72 hours. What could we do in 72 hours? We couldn't go to the authorities, Omnistellar owned them. The media was in their pocket. A data leak would be dismissed as a hoax before it ever gained traction. We were completely and utterly outgunned. I stared at the bioacoustic analyzer, at the complex, beautiful waveforms of the planet's song. Lena's words echoed again: it sings. But it wasn't just a song. In nature, sound can be a mating call, a territorial warning, a cry for help. What if this was all three? What if the fossil seed didn't just contain a memory of the song, but the master key to it? A sequence that could, what? Awaken it? Warn it? I proposed the insane idea to Kalen. What if we broadcast the song back to the planet? Amplify it, send it on a tight beam transmission. Let the planet know what's coming. Kalen was silent for a long moment. Then, a new message appeared. It's a cosmic long shot. A prayer aimed at a god you're not sure even exists. But to do that, you'd need an antenna the size of a city. Something powerful enough to punch a signal across 500 light-years. My heart sank. It was impossible. Most of them were decommissioned years ago, Kalen's message continued. But I think I know one that's still, partially, online. The target was the Triton Deep Space Relay. A colossal dish antenna built into a crater on one of Neptune's frozen moons. It was a relic of the early days of interstellar exploration, made obsolete by quantum entanglement communicators 2 decades ago. Officially, it was a ghost facility, running on automated maintenance routines. Unofficially, according to Kalen, it was a forgotten backdoor to the cosmos. Its power core is still active, Kalen explained, pulling up schematics of the station. And its targeting systems are archaic. They can be manually overridden. If we can get there, get control of the main dish, we can align it with Kepler 186f and use it as a giant megaphone. The plan was ludicrous, a desperate gamble against impossible odds. But it was the only one we had. The journey itself would be a nightmare. We'd have to take a sublight freighter, a slow, ugly transport vessel that ran the outer system shipping lanes. It was untraceable, but slow. By the time we reached Triton, Omnistellar's Quietus fleet would already be well on its way. It was a race, not just against the fleet, but against the very laws of physics. Our finish line was a frozen rock 4 billion kilometers from the sun. The starting pistol had already been fired. The journey aboard the Stray Dog, a rust bucket freighter captained by a man who didn't ask questions as long as the credits were real, was agonizingly slow. For 3 days, we were just another piece of cargo in the vast emptiness of the solar system. Kalen, operating remotely from their hidden base, monitored Omnistellar's networks.
On the second day, the news we dreaded came. "They know," Kalen's message flashed.
"There's a system-wide alert out for both of us. They've flagged your biometrics, your financials, everything.
They know we breached their servers." The hunt was on.
Omnistellar wasn't using public channels.
They had dispatched their own security forces, sleek, predatory ships that moved with military precision.
Our slow freighter was a sitting duck. As we began our final approach to Triton, they appeared.
Two Omnistellar security cutters, emerging from the shadow of Neptune like sharks sensing blood.
Our captain, to his credit, didn't panic. He pushed the freighter's engines to their breaking point, weaving through the ice fields of Triton's orbit.
Alarms blared through the ship as laser fire stitched across our hull.
We were losing.
They were faster, more agile.
Our only hope was to make it to the relay station on the surface.
We launched in a small, armored landing skiff just as the freighter's main drive overloaded in a flash of brilliant white light.
We crash-landed a few kilometers from the relay dish.
The impact was violent, but the skiff held together.
Outside, the surface of Triton was an alien hellscape. Temperatures hovered near absolute zero under a thin, nitrogen atmosphere.
The relay dish dominated the horizon, a monument of engineering, its vast white surface aimed at the stars like a listening ear.
The silence was absolute. The station was on automated lockdown, a metal ghost in the ice.
Kalen had provided us with the station's security overrides, but as we approached the main airlock, we saw fresh tracks in the ice.
Omnistellar's troops had beaten us here. They were inside, waiting.
We were no longer intruders, we were walking into a trap.
We had to find another way in.
Kalen, our eye in the sky, found one, a maintenance conduit, too small for troops in full armor, but just big enough for us to crawl through. It was a dark, claustrophobic journey through the station's frozen guts, the groans of stressed metal our only companion. We were racing against the soldiers searching the main corridors and the ticking clock of the Quietus fleet, now only hours from its target. We emerged from the conduit into the heart of the station, the main control room. It was a cathedral of obsolete technology. Vast walls of servers blinked with dormant lights, and a huge holographic display in the center of the room showed the dish's current, dormant state. A layer of frost covered every surface. It felt like a tomb. Through the thick, panoramic window, we could see the colossal arm of the antenna itself, motionless against the black, star-dusted sky. While I began the arduous process of reactivating the primary power systems, Kalen, now jacked directly into the station's network, fought a different kind of battle. "They're trying to lock me out," they said, their voice strained over the calm. "Omnistellar's best netrunners are throwing everything they have at me. It's a matter of minutes before they seize control." On the holographic display, a targeting vector appeared. Kalen was inputting the coordinates for Kepler 186f. Slowly, with a groan that shook the entire station, the massive dish outside began to move, shifting its ancient gaze across the galaxy. We could hear the heavy bootsteps of Omnistellar troops echoing down the corridor. They were coming. Time had run out. "Power is at maximum, alignment is locked," I shouted, my breath fogging in the frigid air. "I'm feeding the signal from the seed into the broadcast buffer now." I connected my portable bioacoustic analyzer to the main console. The haunting, alien melody of the seed filled the control room. But on the monitor, a warning flashed: signal gain too low. Cannot achieve carrier lock. The seed song was a whisper, and we needed a roar. The relay's amplifiers, designed for digital signals, couldn't grasp the organic complexity of the bioacoustic wave. It wasn't loud enough. We had come all this way, only to fail at the final hurdle. As the first explosions rocked the control room door, an insane, terrifying thought crystallized in my mind. The signal needed a biological amplifier. A conscious mind to act as a focusing lens. It needed me. I pulled out a modified neural interface I'd brought, a dangerous piece of tech I prayed I wouldn't have to use. "Kalen," I said, my voice grim, "I'm going to bridge the connection. I'm going to become the amplifier." Kalen looked at me, the gravity of my words sinking in.
Aris, the feedback could kill you. It could shatter your mind. I looked at the seed, then at the door as it began to buckle inward. It killed Lena, I replied. It's only fitting. I placed the neural interface on my temple and connected the other end to the analyzer. Do it, I told Kalen. They hit the switch. The world didn't just disappear. It was replaced. The song wasn't just in my ears, it was my thoughts, my blood, my very being. An avalanche of information, of sensation, of a billion years of existence, crashed into my consciousness. I felt the slow, patient life of the glimmerwood. I saw the cosmos through 1,000 different forms of perception. I felt the planet's confusion and fear as our probes first arrived. It was a consciousness not of an individual, but of a whole, a choir where every living thing was a single voice. And in that choir, I heard another human voice. Lena. She wasn't an echo or a ghost. She was part of it now. Her consciousness had merged with the planet's. Her last moments weren't of terror, but of transcendence. She hadn't died, she had gone home. She reached out to me, not with words, but with a feeling of peace, of rightness. And together, we began to shape the signal, to focus the planet's raw consciousness into a single, coherent broadcast. A warning. A plea. A roar. The control room door exploded inward in a shower of metal and ice. Omnistellar troops poured in, weapons raised. Kalen, armed with a heavy plasma cutter from the maintenance locker, stood between them and me, a last, desperate line of defense. I was oblivious to them. I was floating in an ocean of starlight, my mind intertwined with a planetary consciousness light years away. I could feel the Quietus fleet approaching Kepler 186f, a cold, sterile presence against the warmth of the planet's life force. Lena's presence guided me, showing me how to harness the torrent of energy flowing through my mind. On the main console, the signal gain indicator, once red, flickered to yellow, then to a solid, brilliant green. Carrier lock achieved. With Kalen holding off the advancing troops in a chaotic ballet of plasma bursts and laser fire, I gave the final push. I opened the floodgates of my mind, pouring every ounce of my will, my grief, my hope, and Lena's memory into the broadcast. From the giant dish on Triton, a beam of pure information, of life itself, shot out into the void, a silent scream traveling faster than light. Across the unfathomable distance, the song arrived. On Kepler 186f, the effect was instantaneous and breathtaking. Every plant, every spore, every root system, flared with brilliant, synchronized bioluminescence. The glimmerwood, the crimson plains, the fungal oceans, the entire surface of the planet lit up as one. It was a world awakening. As the Quietus fleet entered orbit, preparing to deploy its silent poison, a wave of energy erupted from the planet's surface. It wasn't a weapon. It was a shield. A shimmering, iridescent field of pure biological energy that enveloped the entire world. The fleet's ships were harmlessly pushed back, their navigation systems sent into chaos, their weapons useless against a defense they couldn't comprehend. The viral warheads they launched simply disintegrated upon contact with the barrier. The silent, defenseless world they had come to lobotomize had found its voice and roared. The fleet, impotent and defeated, had no choice but to retreat. The planet, now fully awake, was safe. Back on Triton, the energy wave subsided, and I collapsed, the neural link severed. The connection was gone. Kalen had managed to trigger a station-wide system purge, disabling the soldiers' weapons and sealing the control room just as they were overwhelmed. We were alive. The broadcast, intercepted by dozens of independent listening posts, had exposed everything. Omnistellar's stock plummeted. The cover-up, the murder, the planned genocide, it all came out. The scandal was the biggest in human history. They were finished. I survived, but I was not the same. A fragment of the planet's song remained with me, a quiet, beautiful melody in the back of my mind. I no longer tended to orchids in a cage. My work now is to ensure that humanity never again mistakes silence for emptiness. I am the guardian of their secret, the keeper of their story. Lena's sacrifice was not in vain. She became the voice for a world that couldn't speak, and I was just the one lucky enough to finally hear her song. And in the quiet moments, I can still feel her there, across the stars, at peace among the singing trees.